Hello. Welcome to You Rule's first Federalist video. I'm so excited to be sharing these with you. I'm going to start this series with a little background on the Federalist Papers. I've got my notes here in case you're wondering what I'm looking down at occasionally. Picture this. You're a former British citizen living in the former British colony of Massachusetts. You celebrated when the Declaration of Independence was released. You fought in the American Revolutionary War, but now all of your hard work seems to be going to waste. The colonies are fighting. The British are menacing. The colonies are fighting, the former colonies, the new states, are fighting over land that used to belong to the king. They're fighting over ports and port access. They're price gouging each other. Currency is being devalued like crazy. Everybody's trying to raise tax money to pay off the war debt, to stimulate their economies. None of it's working. The Spanish have just passed a law saying that there's no more American shipping up and down the Mississippi River. Things are just going from bad to worse. And finally, there is a very tragic and bloody rebellion led by a American Revolutionary War veteran named Daniel Shays. He comes back to his house to find that he's going to be evicted from his farm for non-payment of taxes. He can't get currency really together, and the currency is of very little value. And so he and 4,000 other men who are in similar situations march on an armory in Massachusetts with the intent of getting the weapons there and overthrowing the Massachusetts government. It is bad. And the states recognize that this just can't go on any longer. So they call a convention. And this convention is supposed to amend the Articles of Confederation, which were the article, which was basically the Constitution that the states were unified under during the American Revolutionary War. But there are some big problems with these Articles of Confederation, and so the delegates are supposed to fix that. And all the states send delegates except for Rhode Island, and the delegates meet for convention in secret. They don't allow anyone to know what they're doing. The doors are closed and locked. The windows are closed. George Washington presides over this convention, and Benjamin Franklin is actually carried in and out of the convention on a sedan chair because at this point I think he's around 81 years old. He's quite old and somewhat infirm. And when they finally open the doors and they show people what they've been working on, it is not a revised Articles of Confederation. It is a brand new Constitution. And this brand new Constitution is set before the American people to decide whether or not they're going to ratify it. This did not make some people very happy at all. And letters begin appearing in the newspapers in New York under the pseudonym Publius, not Publius. They begin appearing under Brutus and Cato, and these letters are quite compelling against the Constitution. Alexander Hamilton sees these letters and he decides, well, this is bad. This is probably going to convince people not to ratify the Constitution. So he calls his friend James Madison and John Jay, and they get together to write rebuttals to these letters. Alexander Hamilton is really, really clever. I mean, I really think Alexander Hamilton was probably a genius. He decides that he's going to label these guys who are against the Constitution Anti-Federalists. And he and his pro-Constitution guys are going to be the Federalists. And this is a bit of a misnomer. There's kind of a reversal going on here, but we'll get into federalism and all of that kind of thing in a little bit. The Anti-Federalists and the Federalists go at it in the newspapers. There's this big, huge debate. And what emerges is this fantastic explanation of the Constitution and an explanation of principles of government, the utility of the Union, all kinds of wonderful things. And Thomas Jefferson takes a look at all this, and he's reading it. Other people are reading it and talking about it. And he says that these Federalist Papers, as they come to be known, are, and I want to get you the exact quote, the best commentary on the principles of government which was ever written. So this kind of praise alone is enough to read the Federalist Papers. But the Federalist Papers are going to give us a wonderful grasp of the Constitution, the forces at work then. They're going to open up concepts about the natural law for us, which we're going to be studying along the way here. If you study the Federalist Papers and you learn the principles behind our Constitution, you learn why these things were written, as opposed to just opening up the Constitution and just sort of reading it like stereo instructions, you will be much better, you'll be much more able to follow what's going on politically. And even when you don't know the particulars of a political situation, which nowadays it's pretty hard to know the particulars, even when you don't know all the vagaries, you'll be able to navigate your way based on principle and a deep understanding of the Constitution. So I hope you're ready, because we're going to go through each Federalist paper. We're going to run down the historical references. We're going to look up legal definitions and learn about the practices of law and principles of government. We're going to hear Hamilton's fiery temper and contrast it with Madison's smooth prose. These guys were just amazing. We're going to explore the Federalist Papers, and as we do, you're going to see that the Constitution is a lot like a machine. I like to think of it as an Enlightenment government machine. It's a philosophy machine, and it creates government. Like all first-run machines, it wasn't created to be it wasn't created perfectly, but and compromises had to be made, and there are provisions for compromises to be made in the Constitution. But the principles were sound, and it still stands today. So, without further ado, we're going to take a look at Federalist 1.